Welcome. This sequence is going to be standing poses. So we are going to stay standing. So because of that, you might want to actually go ahead and do this in shoes. This does not have to be done on a yoga mat. Shoes would be fine. I am going to talk about arches of the feet, especially in the beginning, but occasionally throughout class. You may or may not be able to do the actions for arches, engaging the arches in shoes. So if you want to ignore that or just keep that information in the back of your head for another time or another situation, when you're working on strengthening the arches of your feet separately, that is an option. But standing poses and things that you don't necessarily need a yoga mat for. So if you do have a mat, that being said, go ahead, you can come to standing near the front of the mat. Lining your feet up with each other a comfortable distance width apart. Knees facing generally forward, second toes facing generally forward, knees tracking towards second toes. And then if you want to, you can shift the weight forward and back in your feet. Eventually coming to a place that feels comfortable and balanced between the front and the back of your feet. And if you aren't wearing shoes, or maybe even if you are, go ahead and wiggle your toes a bit. Then with your next inhale, try lifting the toes up, seeing if you feel the arches or the bottoms of your feet engaging with your toes lifting up. Exhale, go ahead and release. And then go ahead and claw or contract the front of your foot towards the back. You might feel those toes scrunching up here. And again, just seeing if you feel the arches of the feet contracting there. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift the toes up. Notice what happens in the bottoms of your feet when you lift the toes up. Exhale, release. Go ahead, press the toes down, pull them in, really pulling the front part, the ball of your foot towards your heel, the back of your foot. Again, feeling the arches of the feet there. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift the toes up. Notice how this feels to the feet. Exhale, release. Inhale, pulling the toes in, the front of the foot towards the back of the foot. Release. Now try lifting your toes up, but pressing down to the front part of your foot and pulling it towards the back of your foot. So really trying to just find those arches of the feet. You can spread the toes, lower the toes to the earth, even pressing the toes into the ground, into the earth as you pull back, but not so much crunching up the toes now. Trying to lengthen through the toes, maybe, as you pull or contract the front part of the foot to the back, and seeing if you can feel a lightness, a lift through the arches. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bone, but the knee joint soft. Feel the muscles around the hips hugging in, including pelvic floor muscles lifting in and up. Feel the low ribs lifting in and up, core engaged. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, head and neck stacked above the rest of the spine. And then settle your hips back over your heels. So a bit more weight in the back of your foot than is in the front of the foot. Breathing here, you can let your eyes be soft or closed. And just feel the breath flowing through you. The rib cage expanding out on the inhales and softening back in on the exhales. As you feel ready, you can lengthen and deepen the breath, balancing out the inhales and the exhales. And with every exhale, rooting from the hips down through the feet into the earth, with every inhale, feeling a lightness, a lift through the arches of your feet, the leg muscles hugging to the bone, and the muscles of the pelvic floor lifting in and up. Breathing here. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. Letting yourself settle into the flow of the breath. Letting yourself settle into the support of the earth. Throughout class, throughout this session, I invite you to stay connected to the flow of the breath. So if at any point you notice your thoughts are drifting or wandering, just bring your attention, your awareness back to the breath. I also invite you to stay deeply connected to yourself. So notice how you feel, physically, mentally, emotionally. Honor whatever that is, and feel free to let that guide or inform your practice. So feel free to modify, adjust, and adapt the practice as you feel inclined to. Even when what I say sounds like a command, that's just shorthand. Even if I say a lot of words, it's still just shorthand. Feel free to modify, adjust, and adapt as you feel inclined to. All I ask you to do is to try to stay connected to the breath and to move a bit with this connection. So breathe. Connecting to that breath, feel the breath moving through you. We will start with an Om. If you'd like to join in, go ahead and exhale the air out of the lungs. Inhale deeply. 'Om'. 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 ' like, you can gently just bow your head to your hands. Staying connected to the flow of the breath. Exhale, release your hands to the side. Notice how your feet feel now. We've been standing for a while, so they might be starting to get tired. And again, maybe contracting or pulling the front part of your foot to the back, then the arch is lifting up, leg muscles hugging to the bone, muscles of the pelvic floor lifting up here as you breathe. With your next inhale, the arms can come wide and reach up high, moving from the shoulders. Exhale, lower the arms down to the sides, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, act like you're sitting back in a chair with Katasana, bending the knees. Exhale, come back up to standing. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana, act like you're sitting back in a chair. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees or your thighs. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips. Exhale, and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, maybe arch the back, head and tailbone lifting a bit towards the sky. Exhale, and round the back, looking at your navel, hips tuck under. Inhale, arch, hips lift up. Exhale, and round. And then inhale, extending to the spine. So perhaps a little bit of an arch. So the hips lift up just a little bit. Top of the hips, top of the sacrum draws in and up a little bit. There's a little dip in the low back right above the hips. Breathing here, but also feel a lot of extension. Nice, full, deep breaths. Then press down through the feet, come all the way back up to standing. And here in standing, settle your groin, settle your thighs back. So there are hip creases here, right at the hips. And if those hips feel like the creases feel like they're disappearing or flattening, a lot of times that's because we're tucking the hips under and we're popping the hips forward. So let the thighs settle back so the tops of the legs are more over your heels and that you have hip creases here. But then keeping that action, the groins, the hip creases moving back, move the back of your hips down, lengthening that so the back of the hips isn't contracting, that you're not crunching or contracting the low back. That's lengthening down. So thighs, groins back, back of the hips lengthens down in the back, and breathing here. Then go ahead, hands to your hips, let your knees be a little bit soft. Shift your weight into your right foot, take a small or a medium-sized step back with your left foot. Then with your next inhale, just opening your hips to the left, however much feels good for you. And then exhale, turning the hips to face towards the front of the mat. But again, only as much as feels good for you, or front towards the front foot. Then from here, again, feel the groins moving back a little bit, back of the hips moving forward, press down to the hips. Inhale, lift the low back up out of the hips, move the elbows and shoulders towards each other on the back, and then use the bottom tips of the shoulders and curl the chest gently towards the sky, keeping the back of the hips extending down, the low back lifting up out of the hips, and feel the breath moving through you. With your next inhale, come back through neutral through the chest. Right knee tracks towards second toe. Exhale, bending that knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. So the right knee is about on top of the ankle. Press down through your hips again here, lifting the spine up out of the hips. Feel the muscles of the pelvic floor engaging to help lift the low back up. And then if you want to, you can inhale the hands up toward the sky. Breathing here, Warrior One, Virabhadrasana, one variation. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. As you feel ready, press down to that right foot, step the left foot forward, hands to your hips, knees a bit soft, a smaller medium-sized step back with your right foot. Inhale, opening your hips to the right side, only as much as feels good for you. Exhale, turning the hips to face the front. Again, only as much as feels good for you. This is sometimes called squaring the hips. Then feel the groins moving back a little bit, pelvis, hips moving back, pubic bone in front moving back a little bit. Feel the back of the hips lengthening down, tailbone maybe moving a little bit forward, but not a tuck under of the hips. And then press down through the hips, lift the low back up, move the elbows and shoulders towards each other, and then using the bottom tips of the shoulders, just curling the chest towards the sky here as you keep the back of your hips lengthening down and the breath moving through you. With your next inhale, come through neutral through the chest. Left knee tracks towards second toe. Go ahead and bending that knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. The left knee right on top of the ankle. Press down through the hips. Low back lifts up. If you want to, the hands can lift up. And again, maybe engaging the muscles of the pelvic floor. Feeling the low ribs, lifting the low back in and up, out of the hips. Feel the breath moving through you here. Warrior One, Virabhadrasana One. Press down through that left foot or right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Inhale, lift your toes up. Spread the toes wide apart if they will for you. And then with your next exhale, lower the toes back down to the ground. pressing the toes into the earth, maybe contracting the front of the foot towards the back of the foot a little bit here, engaging the arches of the feet if you're not wearing shoes. And then exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, lower the hands to your knees. Inhale, extending, lengthening to the spine here. And then exhale, we're going to slide the hands right below the knees to the shins. With your next inhale, you're going to keep lengthening the spine out of the hips, but maybe lift the hips up higher, straightening the legs. So if your back starts to round, perhaps you've gone too far for now. Maybe keep a little bend in the knees. Try to lengthen the spine out of the hips as you breathe here. Feel free to stay here in a more extended spine with your hands up higher on the legs. Or exhale, slowly slide the hands down the legs and gently fold in. You can even bring the hands to the floor if you'd like. Inhale, slide the hands up the legs, lengthen through the spine. Feel the leg muscles nice and strong, hugging to the bone. Exhale, slide the hands down and fold. Inhale, slide the hands up the legs and lengthen. Exhale, slide down and fold. And then hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Exhale, bend your knees a little bit. Let your hips settle just straight down. And then exhale, actually tuck your hips under and inhale and tilt your hips back. Exhale and tuck your hips under. So noticing what a tuck under feels like in your body. Inhale and tilt the hips back. Noticing what that feels like in your body. Exhale and tuck your hips under. Inhale and tilt the hips back. And then go ahead and straighten the legs. And again, just feel the thighs, the groins moving back a little bit, feeling those creases in the hips. And then without overriding this, so not tucking the hips under, not overriding that, but just move the back of the hips so they're lengthening down. Tailbone might move a little bit forward. The tip of your tailbone might move a little bit forward. Press down through the feet. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Bring from the hips down to the feet into the earth. With the low ribs lifting your low back up out of the hips. Breathing here. And then exhale, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Inhale, tilting the hips, the head up towards the sky, only as much as feels good for you. Exhale, dropping the chin towards the earth. Again, only as much as feels good for you. Inhale, head tilts up. Exhale, chin drops down. Inhale, head tilts up. Exhale, nice neutral head, chin in a neutral position. With your next exhale, release the arms to the sides and just breathing, nice full deep breath. So you can do shoulder rolls on the back. If you want to do big juicy ones, you can. If you want to go smaller, you can. Shoulder rolls forward is a little bit more sensitive, so you can ease into that, see how it feels in your body. But if shoulder rolls forward feels good for you, do some shoulder rolls forward as well. And then go ahead and come back to center here. And open your legs to the side. So open your legs a little wider apart than the hips. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Line your feet up with each other here. And again, engaging the arches of the feet, contracting the front of the foot towards the back a little bit. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bones. Feel the groins, the thighs moving back a little bit. Feel the back of your hips forward to meet it. And then from here, go ahead, just lift your hands into a T position and let your shoulders gently move towards each other on the back as you lengthen up out through the crown of the head. With your next exhale, lower the hands to the hips. Your left toes can stay forward or turn in a little bit. The right toes, we're going to turn those all the way out to the right side. Spin the right knee towards the second toe. And then here, exhale, bend the right knee on top of the ankle here. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the right knee on top of the ankle here, tracking towards the second toe. Then with your next exhale, we're going to lean or drop that right hip. And then inhale, we're going to lean the hips back upright or even out the hips. Exhale, leaning into that right hip, dropping it down a little bit. Exhale, coming back upright, evening out the hips. Inhale, leaning into that right hip. Exhale, come back upright. Then go ahead, turn the right toes forward or even towards the left a little bit. Left toes all the way out. Left knee tracks towards second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Holding here with your next exhale, leaning into that left hip. Inhale, coming back, leveling out the hips. Exhale, dropping or leaning into the left hip. Inhale, coming back to center, leaning, evening out the hips. Exhale, leaning into that left hip. Go ahead, come back to center, even things out. Turn the left toes to face forward, all 10 toes facing forward. Knees a bit soft. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, tilting the hips full forward. Stop when your back wants to round. Instead, bring your hands to your thighs and stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips. And again, feel free to stay here if you're tighter,
Or with your next exhale, slide the hands below the knees, still lengthen the spine long, but if you want to extend the legs straighter, you can. And if your back starts to get pulled into rounded here, maybe keep a little bit of a bend in your knees. And then if you want to, you can slide the hands down the legs, gently folding in. And if you would like to release the hands to the floor, you can, breathing wherever you're at. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. As you feel ready, hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Knees soft, heel toe your feet towards each other. Shake out the legs a bit. And then turn and face the front of the mat or turn back in the other direction. Or in fact, if you're in your shoes, you don't really have to turn. Take a moment, line your feet up here. Inhale, lift your toes up. Spreading the toes nice and wide apart. Lower the toes into the ground, pressing them into the earth. Engaging the arches of the feet by pulling the front of the foot back towards your heels a little bit, feeling a lift. Leg muscles hugging to the bone. Groin muscles, thighs moving back a little bit. Back of the hips moving forward to meet it. Lifting up through the muscles of the pelvic floor. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you here. Exhale, release your hands to the hips. Press down to the hips without moving the hips too much. Just move the elbows and shoulders towards each other on the back. And use the bottom tips of the shoulders and curl the chest just a bit towards the sky here. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then inhale, come back through neutral through the chest. Exhale, release the hands. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, slide the hands below the knees. Inhale, straightening the legs, keeping the spine extended if that works for you. Exhale, slide the hands down the legs and fold in. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. As you feel ready, hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. With your next exhale, release your hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, lengthen the spine out of the hips. Shift your weight into your right foot. And big step back with the left foot if that works for you. If not, small or medium again. Back heel can be up or down. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe. And then maybe wiggle that left foot back more if you'd like. Press down through your feet, hug into your hips. With your next inhale, move the groins back a little bit. So again, trying to get that action even in this weirder position or this more unusual position probably for your body. And then exhale again, back of the hips move forward to meet it. Engage the muscles of the pelvic floor and lengthen your spine out of the hips, breathing here. Press down through your right foot, slide, wiggle, scoot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Shift your weight to your left foot. Right foot goes back. Left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Maybe wiggle that right foot back, maybe not. Press down through your feet, hug into your hips. Moving those groins back, moving the back of the hips forward to meet it. And then engaging the muscles of the pelvic floor, engaging your low ribs, and stretching the low back out of your hips as you breathe here. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. Pressing down through that left foot, step, slide, wiggle, scoot the right foot forward to meet it. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide, reach up high. Feel free to bend the knees. Exhale, fold forward with an extended spine. So just stopping with your hands, maybe on your shins right below the knees, lengthening the low back out of the hips. Then inhale, lengthen one more round. Exhale, gently slide the hands down and fold. And then inhale, nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, the hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, shoulder rolls up and on the back, tilting the chest up to the sky. Exhale, shoulders roll forward, tilting the chest down a little bit. Inhale, shoulders rolls on the back, chest tilts up. Exhale, shoulder rolls forward, chest tilts down. Inhale, shoulder rolls on the back, chest tilts up a little bit. Exhale, shoulders roll forward, chest tilts down a little bit. Okay, come back to neutral, which is shoulders a bit on the back, chest lifting up, but just a little bit here. Bring your hands back to your groins, to your thighs. Make sure your knees are a bit soft, so be careful not to lock your knees. What we're going to do is inhale, move the thighs back, move the hips back, lean forward a little bit. Keep the action of the muscles moving back, the groins moving back, but go ahead, let the hips move forward over the toes and lift the low back up out of the hips as long as this doesn't bother your low back. So inhale, leaning a little bit forward. Exhale, leaning a little bit back, hips forward, lift the low back up. Inhale, a little bit forward. Exhale, a little bit back. And again, even though my hips are forward, my groins feel like they're moving back. My thighs feel like they're moving back. I'm keeping the low back long and lifting that up out of the hips as I breathe. And then coming back to neutral here from the groins moving back. Legs settled, top of thighs settled back over the heels. Back of the hips forward. Press down from your hips into your feet, engaging the arches of the feet. And maybe just reaching the arms up to the sky here. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release the hands. Soften your knees, open your legs wide to the side. Perhaps wider than the first time, but you don't have to. You can always keep the width you had before. Take a moment and line your feet up with each other here. And then from here again, groins move back a little bit. Thighs, tops of legs stacked over the heels. Back of the hips move forward to meet it without overriding. So you're not tucking the hips under, but you are feeling the back of the hips lengthening down. From here, the left toes can turn towards the right toes a little bit. Right toes all the way out to the right. Right knee tracks towards your second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend your right forearm to the right leg, gently pressing that knee open. And again, feel the groins moving back, thighs moving back. Be careful not to lock that left knee. Feel the back of your hips moving forward to meet it. And then without tucking under, without popping the hips forward, lean back a little bit to the shoulders and the back of the head. Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to lift the left hand towards the sky, or feel free to stretch the left arm alongside by the ear. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths wherever you decide you're going to be. Breathe. And then staying nice and steady to the legs without changing the form of the legs too much. Tilt your hips a little bit more upright, hands into a T. Some people keep a little bit of a lean in Warrior Two. Some people like to level out their hips entirely in Warrior Two. You can play around, see what works for you today. And then go ahead, bring your hands back to your hips, soften the left knee, turn the right toes towards the left, left toes all the way out, left knee spinning towards your second toe. Exhale and bend, inhale and straighten, exhale and bend, left knee about on top of the ankle, left forearm to the leg, moving the thighs and the groins back. Be careful not to lock that right knee, lengthen the spine, back of the hips, lengthen down or come forward to meet the groins moving back without overriding. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to lift the right arm up to the sky, or feel free to stretch the right arm alongside by the ear. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. Staying nice and steady to the legs, press down to the feet, tilting the hips more upright, hands into a T, looking over the left finger. Feel the breath moving through you here. Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2. And then go ahead, hands back to your hips, soften the right knee. Turn all 10 toes to face along into the mat, hugging in from your feet to your hips. Inhale, lengthen the spine, knees a little bit soft, fold forward. Stop when your back wants to round, bring your hands to your thighs, and instead lengthen the spine a little bit more here. And then exhale, the hands can come to the shins below the knees, still extended. Inhale, perhaps straightening the legs with the spine extending. Feel super free to stay here. Or if you want to, gently let the back round, sliding the hands down the legs, folding in. If you want to bring the hands to the floor, you can do that as well. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then as you're ready, hands to the hip, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Knees soft, heel toe, your feet all the way in towards each other. Shake out your legs a bit. And then coming with your feet about hip distance apart, knees facing forward, second toes facing forward here. And then as you're ready, engaging through those arches of the feet, rooting from the hips down into the earth, bend your knees a little bit, let your hips sink straight down, and actually tuck your hips under just a little bit here. So not a big tuck under, but really a teeny tiny, just extending or lengthening the low back a little bit out of its natural arch. And with the back extended or lengthened out of its natural arch, which you want most of the time, but we're doing hip movements, so maybe not right now, go ahead and see what it feels like to lift the hips up and down here. So you're just lifting one hip up and then the other, noticing what that feels like. And then see what it feels like as you stay with your breath to come back into center, and instead of lifting the hips up and down, See if you can, without lifting the hips up and down, just press the hips from side to side here and see what that feels like here. Okay, come back into center here. You can straighten the legs, still feeling the groins moving back a little bit, back of hips moving forward. To meet it, we are going to come into balancing. So if you're on a sticky mat, it's usually easier to bounce off sticky mats. You might want to take a step off a mat. Bring the hands into a cactus, shoulders on the back. Shift your weight into your right foot, come to your left toes, and if it works for you, lifting that left foot up. It's also a very good idea to have what's called a drishti point, a gaze point, a focus point. So a point to stare at while you're holding the pose. Usually about 6 feet in front of you. It can be on the floor or on a wall. Usually you don't want it to be something that might move. Breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and release. And second side, shift your weight into your left foot, come to your right toes, and maybe lifting that right foot up, breathing here. And as you lift the foot up, again, notice if your hips try to tuck under. Notice if everything tries to pop forward, and trying to keep the groins, the thighs pressing back a little bit, back of the hips lengthening, so breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then exhale, go ahead, release, shake it out, and turn and face the top of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide, reach up high. Exhale, fold. And again, you can fold hands to the shins, lengthen, or if you prefer to fold all the way down and your legs can be bent or straight, you can do that. Inhale and lengthen through the spine. Exhale and fold. Inhale, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the hips. Engage the arches of the feet, contracting the front for that part of your foot towards the back. Feeling a lift, a lightness. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bones. Feel the groins moving back, thighs moving back. Back of your hips lengthening down. Breathing here. And then from here, again, hands maybe on the groins. Inhale, hips forward, but groins still moving back. Lift the low back up out of the hips. Exhale, moving the thighs back, really feeling those groins moving back in this position. Inhale, thighs forward, lift the low back up out of the hips. Bring your hands to your hips now. Keep the back of your hips lifting down. Keep your low back lifting up. Elbows and shoulders moving towards each other. And then use the bottom tips of the shoulders and curl the chest towards the sky. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. Staying nice and strong and steady through the legs. Keep feeling the thighs rooting back and the hips moving forward to meet it to try to keep space in the low back. And then inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, release your hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen the spine out of the hips here, feeling space in the low back. And maybe even keeping a little bit of an arch in the back. So when you do deeper back bends, you don't want to initially just go straight into a forward bend typically. You might want to stay into a smaller back bend for a while and ease your spine back to a more neutral position and then forward fold. So from here, we're going to take our weight into our right foot. Hands can move too. Big step back with the left foot or smaller medium. Press down through the feet, hug into your hips here. Feel super, super free to stay here. Or keeping your left hand on the right knee, take your right hand into the right hip crease and press the right hip back and down. Lengthen the spine out of the hip here, and then gently turning your chest a bit towards the right. And if your balance is not your strong point and you want to instead lower this left hand to the ground, you can do that, or a block or anything else. Okay, inhale, unwind, both hands back to the thigh, press down to your right foot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands. Inhale, bend your knees. Shift your weight into your left foot. Hands can move too. Big step back with the right foot. Left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Wiggle the right foot back. Press down to your feet, hug into your hips. Lengthen the spine. And then again from here, maybe left thumb to the left hip. Lengthen the back out of the hips. And gently twisting, turning your chest to the left. Breathe a nice full deep breaths. And then as you feel ready, turning back towards the ground, press down to that left foot, slide, wiggle, scoot, step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and folding forward. Legs bent or straight, hands to legs or the floor. Inhale and lengthen if you're not already extended, so you can always land in that extended position and stay there. Exhale and fold in if that feels good for you. And then inhale, nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up to the sky. Exhale the hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Open your legs nice and wide apart. Line your feet up with each other here. Hug in from your feet to your hips. Let the groins, the thighs settle back. Move the back of the hips forward to meet it, lifting the spine out of the hips. Left toes turn towards right a little bit. Right toes turn all the way out. And then leaning into the right hip, letting that right hip drop if that feels good for you. Lowering the right hand wherever's comfortable on the right leg. Pressing your right leg a little bit up into your hand so your knee bends a little bit, a micro bend in the knee. Spinning, turning your chest a bit towards the sky. And if you want to, the left hand can lift up to the sky. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then as you're ready, pressing down through the feet, come all the way up. Turn the right toes towards the left toes all the way out. Hands to the hips, lengthen the spine. Exhale, leaning into that left hip. Lengthen the low back out of the hips here. Left hand can come wherever it's comfortable, pressing the leg up into the hand. Twisting your chest gently toward the sky. Right hand can lift up. Breathe. What's going on with the arches of your feet? Can you still engage them? Nice, full, deep breath. Trikonasana, triangle pose. And then as you feel ready, press down through your feet. Come all the way up. Turn all 10 toes towards the long end of the mat. Hands to your hips, lengthen the spine, tilting the hips fold forward. Bring your hands to your thighs, stretch the spine even longer. Feel free to fold forward like we have been. Or if you want to take your hands and interlace the hands behind the back here. And then you can gently fold in here. Maybe the back rounds a little bit, maybe not. Maybe you lift the back of the hips up and straighten the legs a little bit. Maybe you stretch your hands off the back. But again, whatever works in your body in this moment and feels good. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. Then you can look at the arches of your feet in this angle and just see if the arches of the feet are engaging and lifting up. Sometimes seeing helps with knowing what's going on. And then as you feel ready, press down to the feet. Nice long spine all the way up to standing. You can release the arms, do some shoulder rolls as you soften your knees and heel toe your feet back in towards each other. Shake out the legs. Turn and face the front of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, rooting from the hips down into the earth, getting a lightness, a lift through the arches of the feet. Feel the groin settling back, feel the back of the hips moving forward, lifting that low back up out of the hips, using the muscles of the pelvic floor and the core to do that. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Feel free to stay here, or just with the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, without moving your hips too much here. Just curl the chest a little bit towards the sky here. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breath. And you might notice without the hands on the hips, it's harder to keep the back of the hips lengthening down. I can feel the back of my low back trying to contract here. So that's one of the things I'm playing with. And then inhale, come back to neutral. Exhale, lower the hands down. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen the spine long here. Shift the weight into your right foot. Left foot goes back. Press down through your feet, hug it into your hips. Feel the groins moving back of the hips forward. Lengthening the spine out of the hips by engaging the muscles of the pelvic floor and the low ribs. But this time, if you want to, slowly move the back of the hips forward, not tucking the tailbone under, but doing that so you can tilt the hips more upright. You might have to lift your hips up higher here. You might have to bend the back knee a little bit here. You might have to step that back foot in. Any of those options are fine. That's okay. But trying to feel thighs moving back of the hips moving forward, maybe tilting the hips upright. You can also stay leaning forward. And if you're feeling really good here, you can stretch the arms up to the sky. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breath. With the back heel lifted, this is sometimes considered crescent lunge as opposed to warrior one, but it's sometimes still considered Virabhadrasana one. Breathe. Press down to the right foot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. Shift your weight into your left foot. Right foot goes back, maybe sliding that foot back, maybe not. Press down to the feet, hug into your hips. Groins move back, back of the hips move forward, lengthen the spine, and then tilting the hips upright, maybe by feeling the back of the hips moving in such a way that you don't tuck the hips under, but instead your hips lift up. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. And then as you feel ready, if you want to, you can lift the hands up to the sky. Breathe. Okay, pressing down to that left foot, step the right foot forward, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms down, hands to legs or floor. And again, feel free to stay and extend it. Or if you lowered all the way down, slide the hands up, come into extended. Exhale and fold. Inhale, nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up toward the sky. Exhale the hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Hands to the groins, move the thighs back, back of the hips forward to meet it. Hands to your hips, root down through the hips, so the back of the hips lengthening, low back lifting up. If you want to, move the hips forward as a unit, but still the groins feel like they're hollowing, they're moving back. The low back feels like they're lifting up, and you curl the chest a bit toward the sky here. Feel super, super free to keep your hands on the hips and do a back bend here. In fact, probably everyone do a back bend here for a moment. Breathe. And then inhale, coming all the way back up. If your back is feeling really strong and steady, you can bring the arms along by the ears. Same actions, groins hollow out, thighs move back, back of the hips move forward. Move the hips forward, lift the low back up out of the hips. And then bottom tips of the shoulder blades start to curl the chest towards the sky. Breathing here. Keep the legs nice and strong and steady. That's what's going to help protect the low back as you breathe. And then inhale, come all the way back up. Exhale, go ahead, bend your knees, hands to the thighs. And again, a little bit of an arch here, most likely. So intentionally keeping a little bit of that arch in the back instead of flattening the back or rounding the back as you breathe here. So just a little bit less intense of a back bend. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then from here, you can extend the legs straighter, bring the hands to the shins, but still, again, lengthening. So not hurrying to come into the forward fold after deeper back bends. Instead, staying in spaces where the spine is still extended, or you're maybe even still arching the back a little bit as you breathe. And then for a forward fold after a deep back bend, maybe bending the knees to keep the back a little bit more supported. And with your knees bent, gently going into a forward fold. Breathing here. Okay, hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up. Go ahead and turn and face the other direction on the mat if you want to. Open your feet a little bit wider apart than the hips. Again, not a super wide stance though again. And then from here, left toes facing forward or turning in, right toes turning out, right knee tracks towards second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Lean into that right hip. Lengthen the spines, long still here. And then act like you're gonna reach for the ground out in front of the right foot. Shift your weight into the right foot. Come to your left toes. Feel free to keep the left toes on the ground or flexing those left toes, lifting them up. Feel free to keep that left foot low to the ground or start to lift the left leg up higher. As you do, the right hand might come closer to the ground. It might even touch down, but you're not really worrying about that or forcing that. Turning your chest towards the sky, towards the left. If you would like, you can lift the left hand up to the sky. Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Breathe. And then softening that knee, setting the left foot down. Go ahead, right toes turn to face forward or in a little bit. Left toes all the way out. Left knee tracks towards second toe, bend. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, leaning into that left hip. Act like you're going to reach for the ground out in front of the foot. Shift your weight into your left foot. Come to your right toes. Maybe lift the right toes up. Maybe start to lift the right leg up higher. Left hand towards the ground. And again, if you can touch down and you want to, you can. Turn the chest towards the sky. Maybe the right hand lifts towards the sky. Breathe here. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and soften that knee. Set that foot down. Go ahead, come all the way back up. All 10 toes facing the long of the mat. Bend your knees, hands to your thighs, lengthen the spine out of the hips here. And then if you want to from here, you can turn out from your feet. Keep pressing the knees open, leaning forward, move a little side to side. But if you'd like to, as you do that, you could open the feet a little wider apart. Letting the hips settle down if that feels good for you. And then drawing circles on the wall back behind you with your hips in one direction. And then going in the other direction. Breathe. Come back to center here. If you feel comfortable letting the hips settle, let the hips settle down. Feel the thighs pressing gently back. Feel the low ribs engaging, low ribs lifting it up. So you're still hollowing out the groin. So you're moving the thighs back. And again, you're moving the back of the hips forward to meet it. Only coming as upright as feels good for you. And that's going to depend on the articulation of where the leg bones come into your hip socket, how far upright you can come. From here, if you want to, hands into a cactus. Breathe. And then go ahead, press down to the feet, extending the legs straighter, and heel toe your feet in towards each other. Shake out the legs. And then here, go ahead, knees a little bit soft. Move the hips back. Move the hips forward. Keep lengthening the low back out of the hips. Move the hips back. Move the hips forward. Keep the groins feel like they're moving back. Just going back and forward. And then if you want to, little circles. And you can soften through the knees a little bit more here as you circle. In fact, I highly recommend you soften through the knees. And then changing the circles of the hips in the other direction. Come back to center here. And then here, just bend your knees, hands to the thighs, extending through the spine again here. And then exhale, gently let the back round and fold. Grab opposite elbows if that feels okay for you this time. Just see how your back feels here. If their back doesn't feel good with their hands not on something, lower their hands to floor or blocks or whatever works for you. Breathe. And then hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Okay, release the hands to the side. Breathe, move the hips from side to side, knees a little bit soft. Again, maybe a little tuck under even with the hips here. And then from here, again, circle. But this time, let the torso, the spine, move with the hips. Let the shoulders move if it feels good for you. And then changing the direction of the circles. Feel free to stay up higher or slowly easing your way into bigger. So moving perhaps through a little bit of a bent knee forward fold. But again, listen to your back here. And then again, changing the directions. And then go ahead. Come back to hands and your knees. Open the feet a little wider apart. Maybe even turn out the feet a little bit. Bend the knees here. Let the hips move back with the breath moving through you. And then if it feels good, gently pour the spine over the legs here. Hands to the floor. You can open the feet a little wider apart here if that feels good for you. You're not trying to go anywhere extreme. We're winding down here. But maybe, again, just moving the hips a little side to side. Letting your spine just hang. And just letting the spine move with the hips a bit here. And then come into center. Just let yourself release. Breathe. And then hands to hips, shoulders on back. Inhale all the way up. Go ahead, bring your legs in, shake it out. And that's it for today. So today we were staying with all standing. We stayed with all standing. We will finish though with an Om. If you'd like to join in, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, anchoring again from the hips down to the feet into the earth, feeling that arches lift up. So again, maybe contracting the feet a little bit, lifting up to the arches, leg muscles hugging to the bone, muscles of the pelvic floor lifting up, low ribs lifting the spine up out of the hips. Breathe. And then from here, you're going to exhale fully. Inhale deeply.